it just doesn't work out. It just didn't work out. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
and that's fair.
Of course, it's something that I'm just understanding now, that it's okay to feel stuck, and it's okay to feel, not in the right place, because everybody has their own paces and everybody has their own place and time, right?
Right. All right, welcome back to another podcast episode of We're Still Dreaming, a Tito J Dreaming podcast. Today, I'm so excited to have another one of my founding original students, now adults, on the pod. We are here to reflect, to reminisce, to dream, and to imagine, centering the voices of my former students. Today, we have Carlos Montalvo, who is a dedicated student, researcher, and independent professional rooted in Chicago with deep ties to his Mexican heritage. His journey has been shaped by teamwork, curiosity, and community, from the football field and rugby pitch to robotics competitions and student organizations supporting underrepresented voices. Carlos is passionate about creating access and belonging for youth, navigating the challenges of relocation and change, and he's actively involved in efforts to uplift students of color and hopes to expand his work through local churches and community initiatives. With eyes set on a future in cyber engineering or high impact sales and negotiation, Carlos envisions a career that bridges innovation and human connection. His mission is to stay grounded in service while pushing boundaries in the fields that move him. To me, Carlos Montalvo was always a phenomenal student. He was the salutatorian of his class. From fifth grade to eighth grade, he exuded leadership by joining all of the things. He was in flag football, basketball, student council, and other sports. He started out as quiet and shy and continued to grow into his own throughout middle school. Carlos was my original class in my day one class in September 2013. So, everyone, welcome to the podcast, Carlos Montalvo.
Wow, thank you so much for the kind words. I wasn't expecting that. I thank you so much,
Yeah, of
actually,
course.
truthfully.
I'm very happy to have you here. But before we get started, I have to ask you, how are you? How are you mind, body, and spirit right now?
Uh, I just want to say I'm super super relaxed. Honestly, I'm very very in a place where I've just been discovering myself. Honestly, this last month of this year has just been a huge process of just changing my perspective on life and just everything. Honestly, I just came back from a trip from Japan, which
Yeah,
I
tell everyone about
yes,
it.
yes, it was awesome. It was just I barely been back for a week, but it feels like I was over there for like a month, 2 months. The things that you learn and the things that you understand when you're not in the States is it's
Mm,
just honestly incredible. It's incredible, and it just brings you to a new perspective that you wouldn't be able to experience in Chicago. It's something that you just have to experience, the people, the culture, and it was just an eye opener. Honestly, it just made my urge to go travel and go on those adventures even more, and just keep
yeah,
working, like, go for that, because it's just, you know what I mean. The world is just, it's honestly, it was an amazing trip.
yeah. Okay, so I mean, I obviously saw it on Instagram. Like, I
Yeah.
was kind of living through you. I've never left the country. I don't have a passport. I will get one.
Yes, please
Before
do.
I know people are gonna listen to this, and my friends, they're gonna just text me like, "I thought you got it already. I didn't." But between you going to Japan and another student was in Ireland, another student was in Brazil, and then Francisco, who's gonna be on the pod as well, just all over the world. Like, I was like, I gotta do better. I personally have to do better because you
And
guys are traveling. You're
it's,
traveling.
well, I just see it like, people are like, oh, why are you going all the way to Japan for? Like, what's over there that you can't do here? I'm like, what's here that I can't do? You know what I mean? Like, what is? It's just, I'm like, there's just so much to do over there. Just the experience alone of seeing a whole new culture, I
Yeah.
would highly, highly recommend. Even if it's not Japan, you just, maybe even
Yeah.
Mexico or just somewhere close by. I really
Uh,
recommend you go on a travel, because it's
yeah.
it's it's a, it's a life changer, honestly.
Yes, that's gonna be my goal. That's gonna be my goal.
Yes,
Once I figure out the stuff happening in my life
for
right now,
sure.
then I will definitely start traveling again. But thank you again for being in this podcast. I'm excited to like
No, thank you so much for
share
having
this
me. Honestly,
space. And so we're gonna start with what let's reflect on the past.
for sure.
Because I know, as I said, you were in my original fifth grade class. You were not in my sixth grade homeroom, but I had you in sixth grade. And then I had you in my seventh grade homeroom.
Hmm.
And then I had you in eighth grade, but you were also not in my homeroom. So I had you in my homeroom two out of the four times, but taught you all 4 years.
Of course.
Let's talk first impressions. So, like, I already said what grade that we met each other in. Tell me a little bit about your memory of like when you first got to BP and we first met each other, because I have really good memory. One thing you're gonna know about me is that I have really good memory. Like I'm good at remembering
Yeah,
small moments because also like moments that really impact me kind of stay with
of
me.
course.
So yeah, tell me what your first impressions were in fifth grade.
So it's honestly hard, right, to just go
Yeah.
back and be like, oh, well, fifth grade, this happened, just because it's like, at least when you're younger, you kind of just go by everything because everybody tells you, oh, go to school, do this, do that, right? So it's kind of hard to remember, but I can honestly say that when I first met you and the other teachers, specifically you, I was just like, okay, this guy is here for he's gonna make sure we get everything done the way we need to. Like he's gonna be on us 100%, but in a good
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I as soon as I met you, I was like, he has order, he has everything the way he needs to, do it, and it's a good plan. Like it, even at a young age, I was like, you know what, I gotta respect this. I gotta
yeah,
respect
yeah,
the process, and I gotta respect this because it's like you were so respectful towards us as students. Like you treated us as adults, which is honestly surprising because
yeah.
sometimes your parents, don't treat you as adults, but
Yep,
you treating us as an adult was very, it changed a lot of things. It
yeah.
made it comfortable to learn and ask questions and go through that whole process.
Right, right. I have to ask you because I always ask this to all the kids. I love to ask, like, in the beginning, when you got into fifth grade, do you remember me as mean? Because I tried to play mean. I tried to
Yeah,
play strict. I did.
yeah,
I I was told before I got into the classroom that we were not supposed to smile till December.
mm,
That's not true for me specifically, but
yeah,
this story is not going to be related to you, but I don't know if you remember it because I will bring it up with somebody else. But
mhm.
do you remember Halloween? Fifth grade Halloween?
I
Like
think there was no.
the day before Halloween?
I think so.
You guys
I
talked way too much and I said there's
And then
no
you
Halloween
cancel it.
party.
Yeah,
Did you
yeah, I remember
cry?
that. I don't think I did.
I don't think
No,
you did, but a lot of kids cried.
no,
And I will
yeah,
talk about that story separately with the people who cried because people cried. But that moment, I was like, oh, I'm being a little bit too mean. Like and I was very strict because I remember one of the first things I said, and I definitely said this to Albert's class, who
yeah.
he's coming on the pod too. Um, I'm from New York. I don't play. I'm not the
Hmm.
one. Those are my
Hmm.
three phrases
Yep.
that I used constantly because I wanted to portray myself as like, don't mess with me. Like, and so I'm curious, like, I don't, did you think I was mean in the beginning?
At first I thought you were just more intimidating, and not
Yeah.
necessarily mean like, oh, you do something and he's gonna like go at you, he's gonna make you feel a certain way. No, I was just more like, oh, you don't mess with him because he will not play games. Like he's not here to mess around. He's here to
That's
get the
right.
job done.
I
That's
love that.
that's actually the mentality of like, not necessarily me, but he's just very on point and needs things done his way because it's like his way works. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just more that. It was just more like stern and
Yeah.
very intimidating for
Right.
sure. It was
Here's
a
what
little intimidating.
here's what I have to say because I've taught in multiple cities now.
Yeah.
Your class was easy.
Mm,
Like you guys were actually like at the time I mean like I said I'm 21 years old. It was my first class.
of course.
Obviously I'm trying to portray myself as like don't mess with me, I'm not the one. But your class like was a blessing in comparison to like I've taught other classes and it was not as easy as your class. Like I thought
I've heard the stories.
yeah.
You hear the stories in middle school. Oh, it's, what I say, you hear the
You,
stories for sure.
y'all were very like
Yeah,
largely respectful. I think I mean of course we had students who played too much.
of course.
But overall like I think I mean I don't want to say the worst behavior, but like you just talked a lot. And
Yeah,
that's just normal for kids. Like look at me,
yeah.
I'm 30 now, so I get it. Like obviously like back then I was like everyone be quiet.
Yeah.
So um yeah, that I've always wanted to ask that from you particularly.
Yeah,
Um, one of the things that we've talked about in the past too is like you came to our school because you had an issue in your last school, and I remember
of
it because
course.
I think it was back to school night. I had met you and your mom.
Hmm.
They explained to me the story. So you want to tell people what that experience was like?
Yeah, so I mean, it was a whole lot of things that built up in my old elementary school, and it was honestly it was a people say it's a blessing in disguise that certain things happen to you, and you think it's oh wow it's the end of the world. It's just that's it, right? Even at a young age, you kind of things happen,
Right.
and you think this is it. This is never it's not gonna get better. In my case, it was in middle school. There was a bit of a not too crazy of a bullying problem, but I definitely went through certain things that a lot of kids go through, and it was just one particular event that happened with another student where physically I was in a place where I was just harmed, and it went both ways. I understand the situation that went on, but that on top of classes just not being either challenging enough or not being the right material that I thought I was supposed to learn, and certain teachers not doing certain things about this. So just a whole lot of things that accumulated. Thankfully to my mom, she had seen that, she had known that that environment wasn't going to work for me, and like I said, everything happens for a reason. She saw BP was opening up. She said, you know what, let's give this school a try, and thank God she did, because yeah, we went there, and I do remember that I actually do remember that night. She was telling me before we even went to the school meeting, like, you know what, this is gonna be a cool change for you. This is gonna be a good change for everybody, and it's gonna be you're gonna do so much better here. And I forgot that she did talk to you, but now that you said that, I remember she did explain to me, like, you know what, I'm gonna talk to your teachers. I'm gonna let them know what happened, and yeah, this is gonna be a good change for everybody. So
Yeah.
I'm sad, not really sad. I'm grateful for everything that happened in my old elementary school, just because it got me in the place that I was with the great help that we got. So
Right. I was
blessing in
gonna,
disguise.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, I remember that conversation with your mom, and I had met you as well. And so when you had come to class, I was already protective over you
Yeah,
because of my experience. I also was bullied a lot in elementary and middle school. And so I already knew that context of what you went through. And so I
yeah,
wanted to make sure that you were like obviously safe in our school, in our context, especially since it's new, a bunch of new kids. Everybody
of
was new,
course.
kind of, because
Yeah,
everybody did go, a lot of kids came from one school. But I wanted to I had this, like, I wanted to make sure that you were good in our spot because I didn't want that experience to happen here for you. But I thought
for sure.
generally in your middle school experience you thrived really well. Like you I thought, like, I wouldn't we obviously there were cliques, popular, not popular, all
Yes,
that.
yes,
But
yes, 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 yes.
I felt like you were one of the students who like managed to talk to everyone. Like
Yeah.
that's what I my perception
Mm,
was like, oh, Carlos talks to everyone. Like
mm,
it's like you're not really hopping in a group. You're just kind of like everyone's thing. And I thought that I was just like, okay, like he's good. And I have felt like as you got older, you got better at that. And plus, I you were joining everything. So like you were in
yeah.
football, that was a lot of fun, flag football. Basketball. I remember you did like a bunch of sports. And
Mm.
so I thought that that was a good indicator that you were like thriving into yourself, you know?
It's honestly just a matter of time. Like, it's one of those things where it happens to everybody. Everybody's growing up, and it's a little weird for everybody. And I think, at least for me, when I got to BP, especially the way that you treated everybody the same. You know what I mean? You had everybody on the same level of, like, you can't say you can't do it, because I'm telling you you can, and I'm seeing
Mhm.
that you can. You know what I'm saying? And you had that mentality with every student, so it
Yeah.
was very, very, very comforting knowing that, like, okay, I'm doing good because he's watching over me the same way he's watching over everybody, and so everybody has the same respect mentality with you,
Yeah.
including with each other. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I
yeah,
figured very young. A lot of you had every single one of you have a story, and every single one of you, like I was able to manage that with all 32 of you. Like I knew what most of you were going through,
of course,
so that was important to make sure that like everyone got the same push, that everyone knew that they were going to do it. So now that we're transitioning into like middle school moments, like can you talk about what are some middle school moments that you remember that you want to share? And then maybe I could like share some reflections on that too. So like anything that stood out to you, good, bad. whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, like every other kid, obviously, because although you did treat us like we were adults, it really did feel like I was like in high school taking, high school classes. It felt like I was in older, like honestly, it
Yes.
really did feel like that. So besides that feeling of like, oh wow, I'm in fifth grade, getting taught eighth grade freshman high school year, education and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
stuff like that. It just felt, I just had a lot of memories from when I was, even though it felt like that, I was still a kid. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I enjoyed a lot of the things that we did as kids, like, pizza parties, movie nights,
Oh,
all
I
those
mean,
little
come
events. You know
on
what I
now.
mean?
Yeah.
Those were all just, they're good memories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I said, besides the learning and growing, which felt like very adultish,
Yeah.
just having those kid memories of like, going with my friends playing ball, or
Yeah.
having the water balloon fight that we did, or just literally a
Yeah.
bunch of
Yeah.
things that was just like,
Yeah.
it felt like you were treating us like adults, but at the same time letting us live as kids. And it's
Oh,
like it
no.
was a good mixture of both, you
You
know?
know, I'm not gonna lie. I'm glad I heard that. Like, I sometimes I felt like, I mean, obviously this is your perspective, and like other
Yeah,
people
of
have
course.
different perspectives. And I always say, like, when you're teaching a lot of kids, you're not gonna reach everyone in the same way. And
Hmm.
there are obviously gonna be people who are highly critical of me, and that's okay. Like,
For sure.
I was 21, 22 years old, 23, 24 when I had you all the way through. So like, I think that's important to note. Do you remember the frog dissection
Yes.
in fifth grade? Okay,
It was yes.
I had so I gotta confess this because like I've never
Yeah.
shared this story. So in
Hmm.
fifth grade, um, we in science, I definitely wanted you all to do a frog dissection. And
Yeah.
first of all, the frog dissection is not a fifth grade. It's not a
No.
fifth grade thing.
No,
Like
no,
that's
no.
not. It
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
even the curriculum. So I was just like, oh, I want to do a frog dissection because we had just done like some unit on like body systems or whatever. I'm not
Hmm.
gonna lie. So I got the frog dissection kits actually for free. Like people donated to get us
Yeah.
dissections. I'm not gonna lie. When they came to school, I didn't know what to do with it. So when I have a picture, I have
Yeah.
pictures of me doing the dissection and then
Yeah.
you doing the dissection. But the day that we got to the teaching thing, I was like, ooh, we actually do not have all the materials we need to do this dissection properly
Yeah.
as like whatever. And it was funny because I was winging it in terms of
Hmm.
like, okay, maybe you want to do this. And so then I remember I was like, okay, let's explore. So you guys were like cutting up a frog and like
Yeah.
trying to like explore, which some of you had such amazing things. Like I remember people were like, "Oh my God, there's a fly in the stomach." Like you
Hmm.
guys had like
Yep.
really cool stuff. So like the that frog dissection stood out to me too. I don't know if you also remember in fifth grade because that science one and the one where you guys put a picture of my face on an egg
And
and
we had to save the egg.
you have to save the egg,
Yeah.
so you had to
Yeah, I
build
remember.
like the stuff. Like
Yeah.
these were my favorite ones in fifth grade. And then do you remember going to the woods? Like we
Of
did like
course.
those are okay. Obviously, I loved
I
your
remember everything.
yeah,
Honestly, everything was great. Even the
yeah,
trips to DC and New York were just, like
yeah.
I said.
Right. You talked a little bit earlier, or we talked about Gatsby and the Kite Runner. And so to everybody, Carlos in fifth grade, like we did like reading levels and things like that at the time. And so Carlos was in a group that um read really well, and I had him in a group reading The Kite Runner, which is a lot in Fontes and Pinnell, and to everybody who's listening. I know people are going to critique the reading levels and stuff like that, but that's not the point of this conversation. I had Carlos read with Hector and Ashanti, who was also on the pod, The Kite Runner,
Hmm.
and it was a very heavy book.
Yeah,
Don't know if you have any memories of reading The Kite Runner, but
of
do you
course.
have any thought? Like, what were your thoughts when you were reading The Kite Runner? It was a deep book. I
Yeah,
remember reading it with all three of you and having the discussions on it. Like, what were your thoughts when you were at what, 9, 10, reading The Kite Runner?
exactly. So my thoughts were, and they're still the same. It's very much just like you again. It's so weird because it never felt, not that it never felt like, oh, I couldn't read that book, or
Hmm.
I was gonna struggle reading that book, because again, you gave us so much like confidence and affirmation. It was like you're gonna do it, and you're gonna do it well. So I never really felt like, oh, this is gonna be. Of course, it was a struggle understanding certain things, but I never thought, oh, I'm gonna struggle just understanding the basics of it. You know what I mean? I never thought I was gonna struggle because it was more just like you gave us the tools and you gave us that again that affirmation. You're gonna do it and you can do it. And it was just like that mentality, like, okay, he's treating us like an adult, like we can read adult books. Like, let me give this a real, like, let me actually do what I can to understand and take notes. And like, it was very much it was an exercise that was kind of, you knew it was advanced,
Yeah,
but you knew that at the end of the day, you know what, you're right there helping us out, and it's
right.
just gonna be for our own benefit to understand. And I never saw it as a task. I never saw it as a chore. I saw it more
Yeah,
just like, oh, we get to understand,
right.
like, these higher level thinking books, and
Yeah.
it's gonna be a good challenge. At least that's how I always saw it. You
Yeah.
know?
For me, your group, that group, Hector, Ashanti, and you, it was my light bulb that I was like, oh, like kids can do anything.
Yeah.
Like you can push them to the highest levels and they can learn and they can like, and so I really enjoyed doing that. I got a lot of criticism. I did get a lot of criticism for
Mm,
having y'all read that book because it is a very adultly book
yeah.
in terms of its themes and stuff, but like you all handle it well. And obviously like at the time your parents, like I let them know that you were reading
Of course.
that
Yeah.
book, and so it did really teach me that I can push all of you to the next level. And that's why like when you went to sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, I was like, okay, let's like read some higher level
Yeah.
books just to like push ourselves. And I think that worked out really
I
well.
think it was, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, no, I was just saying, I think it was the fact too that you were just very open. Like, this is a heavy book. It has heavy words and heavy context and stories behind it, but you guys are at a point where you can understand this stuff. And I think it's just that. I think just having that, like, you can do it energy, and like you're at a point where you can do it. Like, we were doing it, you know what I mean? But it didn't feel
Right.
like such a, oh, this is such a crazy, they just said this, or crazy, they just said this word, right? Or they just mentioned this. No, because it's like you had already prepared us fast. So it was kind of like, okay, we already knew that was going to happen. So let's move on. Let's continue now. So it was that sort of like, again, just treating us as if we were old. It was just helpful, super helpful, at least for me personally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What are some, give me two lessons or share with everybody two lessons that you learned from middle school.
Yeah. So, I mean, in middle school, it was just honestly one of those subjects that, or it was one of those things where it's a learning process for everybody. Of course, everybody's growing up, and everybody
Mhm.
is just hearing different things from everybody. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where you're discovering yourself too. Um, but one of the things that I learned really really well from middle school, and especially from you, um, was being able to strive for more and being able to understand that just because we grew up in a certain family, in a certain neighborhood, in a certain community, doesn't mean that we can't open our minds up to bigger opportunities. You
Mm,
know what I mean? So it was helpful to understand that, you know what, just because I'm a person of color, and just because I grew up maybe not in the richest neighborhood, maybe not, maybe not in the best neighborhood, period, I still have the tools to become something greater for myself and get the opportunities that people in nicer neighborhoods or people with more money will get. You know what I mean? Like, I never felt less than, and I never felt like I wasn't good enough. Like, I really did feel I have the power, I have the tools needed, and it felt good to know that I could strive for more. And
right,
that's one thing that I didn't realize until, going to BP, because again, being in my old middle school, you don't hear a lot of that. You just hear do this, do that, learn this, learn that. That's it. You know
right.
what I mean? But you
Yeah.
don't ever hear like you can do more with your life besides reciprocate a book.
Yeah, it's funny because I know one of the things we previously talked about, and we can like add this in here, is this idea around like problem solving and critical thinking over repetition.
Oh yeah,
One of the things I hated as a student was when we just read and answered questions.
yeah,
And what I really loved with your class is that we got to a point where, like you were talking about it just now, like the taking a book and then being able to like relate it to the real world, where it's
yeah,
like, These are the things and societal issues that are happening. Like, how do we make it better? Um, how do we make ourselves better? Then how do we make our communities better? How do we make the world better? And I often like wanted to do that because, um, like I said, I saw a lot of myself in all of you. I think part of that was
Sure.
like I struggled also with like reading and writing on tests, like state tests. But I never believe in like teaching to a test. And so when you had mentioned that, oh, like repetition isn't it, like that's not what it is,
Yeah,
like pushing for more, I think it's more important that, you have the character over like trying to be like perfect on a test or like
for
do all
sure.
these things. Although I will also like I can admit too that you remember the NWEA
Yeah,
fiascos with the tests and the goals and like
yeah,
I am not beyond saying that I definitely upped the pressure for people to do well on that test by teaching higher level things so that you got yourselves up there, but like more importantly was that I wanted y'all to connect it to like social justice issues and society and stuff. So I know Hector's talking about this, but you remember the sixth grade 12 to
yes.
15 page.
Yeah, yeah.
That was fun.
There's no
I
way
mean,
you
it
can
wasn't
forget
fun
that.
for you. It
Yeah.
was fun for me to watch
Hmm.
because the class looked like a college. It did
It
for
felt like it.
2 weeks.
Hmm.
It did.
Yeah.
And I will say, um, I really, I do have some. I don't know if I have yours, but I
Mhm.
do have some of those papers because it just like I said, your classmates are marker for me that y'all can do anything. And the kid, you can do anything. And we just have to believe and push and like provide all that stuff. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that part up too. Like, how did the striving for more affect you? Because now we're going into high school.
For sure.
So, um, how did you think about striving for more in high school and any lessons that you want to share around now moving into the high school experience?
So, as you remember, because you helped me so much, which I appreciate, and you helped everybody. Like I said, I really do appreciate the fact. Just one more thing that, again,
Hmm.
in middle school, we really were treated like adults. Like, I think people don't understand the fact that we were literally going in, and it felt like a college class. It felt like a high school class, getting you ready for college classes, and again, just that responsibility of just having that in your hands. Like, oh, you have not have to do good now. Well, yeah, you have to strive to do better now, just so you can grow in the future. That
Yeah,
was already installed in my head. So I took that lesson into high school, um, and I just kind of, again, my high school experience was a little bit different. I was in boarding school for my first 2 years of high school. I had the great opportunity of going to Connecticut
yeah.
and studying with culture shock. It was a little bit of a culture shock because I was studying in a predominantly Caucasian school.
Hmm.
Me being one of only five Latinos in I think my whole school, actually, because I don't. From what I remember, I think I was one of the handful, right?
Hmm.
Um, so at least going into high school, not looking the same as everybody, not having the same background as everybody, not having the same financial background as everybody, it definitely helped knowing that I was more than capable and more than ready to join a school like that and join other peers who thought different, who learned different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because I didn't look like them or didn't come from a background like them, I never felt like I didn't belong. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So taking from middle school, I definitely felt like, you know what? Not only am I meant to be here, but I'm meant to do a lot more here than I did in middle school.
Hmm.
So I definitely felt that going into high school, and that just gave me a lot more confidence. Truthfully, it just gave me more confidence to be myself, be open to um, different experiences, different clubs, different activities, stuff like that. Which all of that was very much confidence boost in high school. Just learning a little bit more of my interests and what I wanted to do, and it's again, middle school really did just prepare you, at least for me, prepared me to be an adult. It just prepared me to be an adult in high school.
Mm.
and just take it more serious, take any opportunity that I could. And came back junior year, finished off my high school here, and it was honestly one of the best experiences as well. I was able to get into some of their honors classes and graduate and yeah, get enrolled into college. So middle school definitely helped me
You
with
know,
that.
and I will say to like COVID, yeah,
Yeah,
unfortunately, I felt bad for y'all. I actually remember
it
that
was, yeah,
like, you all had your senior year kind of
taking it away.
taken
Yeah,
away
yeah,
because the COVID situation.
yeah.
Um, in terms of lessons, I know one of the things that we had talked about before was this idea around like as a high schooler, as a teenager, like it's also about enjoying life. It's not
Of course,
about school,
of
which
course.
I would love to get into a conversation with you about, which is, so what are your thoughts around that? Because I know we had talked about it earlier. Um, what are your thoughts around that, especially in high school, trying to navigate, like, I'm trying to do well in my academics, but also like I'm a person and trying to have my own life.
Yeah. I will say, again, going back to one of the things I did learn from high school,
Yeah.
one of the big important things I did learn was that it is not just all about school. It's not just about your education, although it is very, very important and very
Yeah.
crucial to understand and to learn and to grow as a person, especially, in your education. It's not the whole point. It's not the whole point of school. It's not the whole point of high school. It's definitely not the whole point even after high school. It's one of those things that I realized while living over there by myself. What? Have fun, especially when I did sports like rugby and football. Just being with all of my teammates, all of my classmates, like I learned very quickly that it was possible to have fun and do things with my friends while also going back and focusing and studying up on school.
Yeah.
Um, but it was definitely like a little shell that I had to break through. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Because I was very school focused. It was just school, school,
You
school, school,
were.
school. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
I very much just saw it like this is what's in front of me right now. This is what I have to focus on. Just because if I do, it's gonna get me to college, and that's gonna give me a great life. Blah blah blah. Right? What everybody says. And of course, I did focus on school, but throughout the process, I also learned to just enjoy a lot of the little things. It was a good self-learning process. It was a good process to go through and a good journey to understand that, what, it's okay to have fun every now and then. It's
Yeah.
not crazy.
I was gonna say too, like, I was very focused when I was a kid. I was very focused on academics all the way.
Yeah.
The first time that I kind of like was like, my life shouldn't just be about studying was in college.
Hmm.
It was also the first time I stepped away from home.
For sure.
And so, I mean, you can make the connections for yourself. But like,
Yeah. No, definitely.
but the first time I stepped away from home, I was 18 years old. Everyone knows I went to school in Philadelphia. It was the first time I remember stepping outside of the dorm. Like I got out of the dorm and I said to myself, I don't have to ask permission to go anywhere.
Yep.
I don't have to ask permission. Like it was crazy. Like I was
Yeah.
like kind of like, all my friends who were from college will tell you like I had a crash out. Like I crashed out so hard
Really.
that first year
Hmm.
because I was so confused, and also the independence was
Hmm.
just like I can walk to downtown Philly at 2 in the morning and not
Yep.
ask or anyone will care that I'm
Yeah.
there, and I did that. Um, or hang out with some friends in West Philly or like wherever in Philly. Like it was just
Yeah.
I was exploring this idea of like I can make decisions for myself.
Of course.
And I think you had that early. Like I think you
Yeah.
had that early because like you had to go somewhere else for high school, and it like kind of like messes with like, it messes with your head a little bit because you've just been in house like rules, 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 and now you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I can be my own person. Like, do you think that that was something that like you resonated with for yourself, in terms of like even as an adult now,
Yeah.
it's still kind of sometimes hard to shake it off
Oh
and
yeah.
do those things. So any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. It's one of those things where, again, you don't see it too much when you're a kid, just because you're going through it and you're kind of going with the flow and what your adults are telling you to do. What your parents are telling you to do, teachers, grandparents, you name it, right?
Right.
All of these adults are telling you what to do, and when you get to a point where it's like, oh well, now nobody's telling me what to do. What do I do? You know
Right,
what I
right,
mean? And
right,
it's like,
right.
and so
Yeah.
you kind of do go through that phase of like realization that I am my own person and that I have literally the freedom to go down the street, come back. You know what I mean? Like I can go hang out with my friends, go do this, do that. But now it kind of did put more responsibility on myself in the sense of like, okay, just because I am my own person, am I gonna give up on all the tips and advice that I was given? You know, it was kind of a struggle of understanding. You know what? I am free. You know what I mean? I'm free to do what I can do or
Yeah.
do what I want to do, but at the same time, I can't just spaz out and go crazy because I still have my life to think about. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I will say leaving school or just leaving home in general, right? Just leaving that idea of everybody telling you this is what you have to do, just essentially people planning out your day, right? It kind of just made you realize, wow, I have control over my life. You know what I mean? And I can have fun and I
And
can,
you
yeah,
were 13
yeah,
when you had I had my that I was 18.
yeah,
So that gap is, but your 13-year-old and an 18-year-old,
yeah,
like um two different mentalities. And so I would figure that's hard to manage. Now, before we move on to like in the next section about present, we do have to talk about Lucas.
for sure.
So the Montalvo family and Carlos gifted me with my dog child of 10 years. I think he's 10.
Hmm.
Lucas, which if anyone who knows me, Lucas is my dog. Now my parents' dog. Lucas listens to my parents now. I'm not the alpha anymore.
Mm,
Um, and but Lucas still remembers me. He knows I'm the one who brought him here.
of course.
So Montalvo, look, see, I'm calling you Montalvo because like
Yeah,
now that things are coming back. I used to call Carlos Montalvo in class. Well, I remember going to your house. Well, first your parents had asked me if I wanted a dog. Well, actually you did. You asked me if I wanted
yeah,
a dog. I was like, I don't know if I want a dog, but I had just moved to the north side of Chicago by myself. And so I was having a really hard time. I was going through a little bit of a depression phase. And so I was just like, oh, I'm gonna do it. Like, why not? Like, and so I went to your house to pick up Lucas. Well,
hmm,
correction. I was there to pick up a different dog.
yeah.
And my memory of this was I was there to pick up this other dog, but Lucas had like sat on my lap and he was barking a lot. And I think your mom was like, oh, maybe you can take him. And I did take Lucas home. And I will say, everyone who knows Lucas, Lucas is a bad dog.
Very energetic. He's an energetic dog.
He's
Yeah,
very energetic, very loud. And
yeah,
I remember I walked him for the first time. And I mean, I like to say he's protective. Like he's just like goes after, and he's still like that 10 years later. And so that's a thank you because Lucas really, I would go as far to say that Lucas was like really instrumental to my mental health.
of course. And honestly, and I'm glad. I'm honestly glad to hear that because again, you hear that statement all the time of like, everything is a blessing in disguise. There's certain
Yeah,
things that happen just for like certain things. Really, I genuinely believe that certain things do happen for a reason.
right.
And it was just one of those moments where we're just like, we had one dog originally. We had Layla, of course,
Yeah.
and it was just her. And we felt bad that she was home all alone all the time because we
Yeah.
had school, parents had work, and so we had saw Lucas. We're like, you know what, he'd make a cool companion. And then he was a set deal. He had a sister, and so we took both of them. But we quickly realized even two dogs is a lot. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Um,
And Lucas.
yeah, Lucas counts. Yeah, he was definitely a energetic dog. Um, but we realized quickly, it's not gonna work out. It's just
Yeah.
too much. So we're like, we don't just want to get rid of them and give them to whoever, right? We want to make sure they're cool with people that we will talk with and be in contact with, and yeah, my mom was one of the first to be like, you know what, Mr. Zarate, he's here in Chicago. He's always around. He's a cool, like he will take care of 100%. But I do remember we did offer you the girl first. Yeah,
Yes,
it
you did.
was
I remember that.
yeah,
Lucas is it's funny because Lucas is my guy. My
yeah,
every time I come home from work or when I'm out for a while and then I come home, Lucas is just like, I think all dogs are like this, where they're just really energetic and they show love. And Lucas, this is so cheesy, but Lucas does teach me a little bit about like how to kind of live life and like the loving part of it, where he's just like he loves you no matter what.
Yeah.
And so, that's a thank you to the Montalvo family,
No, of
Carlos,
course.
for that dog. Was Lucas is everything. So
No, and honestly, I appreciate to hear because again, everything and the way everything worked out, we
yep.
ended up giving the girl to my cousin actually,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and she has the same experience of like, oh, you know what, she's the bad, like
yeah. Yes,
everything kind of just worked out.
yes, yes.
So I'm really glad to hear that.
All right, so now we're gonna move into the present. So just share a little bit about like what are you doing now and like what are you passionate about in your present? Because like we talked a little bit about like your middle school, high school years, and now you're 22.
Yeah, going to 22 in June.
Oh my
Almost
God.
there. Almost there. Almost there.
No, just kidding.
Yeah. No, I feel the
5-year-old
same.
growing.
Yeah, I feel like I'm 21. I'm gonna be 21 forever. That's what I feel
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, so what's up now? Like what are some things you're passionate about? What are some things that you look forward to doing right now in your present?
Yeah, so as of right now, I mean, I was in school after high school, or I
Yeah.
was in college after high school. It was one of those things where it just doesn't work out. It just didn't work out. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
and that's fair.
Of course, it's something that I'm just understanding now that it's okay to feel stuck and it's okay to feel, not in the right place
Mhm.
because everybody has their own paces and everybody has their own place in time, right?
Right.
So I'm just realizing that now. But while I'm realizing that, I'm working, trying to make sure that I strive for something a little bit more, and just currently looking for a different path to life. I'm still exploring my options and trying to figure out what makes me happy and what type of job would I be interested in without feeling like it's a job, which sounds super cliche and almost impossible. But I feel like if you're not happy with the job, why
Right.
do it? Why continue with it? It's
Yeah.
I want to find that fire still. You know what I mean? I haven't. I found some flames, some sparks here and there, but it's just more like I haven't found that set thing where I'm like, this is it. This is where I'm
Yeah.
gonna put all the chips in and I'm gonna write it all the way out. You know
Right,
what I
right,
mean?
right, 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 right.
Um, so I'm still in that exploring phase. I won't lie. It's a process. Understanding those careers, understanding myself, just to know, hey, can you handle this? Are you gonna fit in this?
Yeah.
It's a lot of self discovery still.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you talked about that because that is something I hope that other people hear, that you don't need to have your life figured out
Yeah,
at 20, 22,
yeah.
18. And so the exploration phase is really important. Like and
Hmm.
you're doing that. Like you went to Japan.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and it was awesome.
I think that's so like you never know like what new passions come out and things. So like I think it's important, especially nowadays, where you are trying to do things that like light you up and keep you healthy everywhere,
Sure.
So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Now we're moving into the next page, which is ask Sorati two questions. So you can ask me two questions and I'll answer. We can like just go back and forth with it. So what's your first question?
Definitely. So honestly, the first question that I had was you being a teacher, right?
Mhm.
Being honest with yourself now was I know because even as a student you see it, right?
Yep.
There's certain students who are just not too into school, not
Mhm.
into the classes, or they're just not into the education process in general, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're just not into it.
Right.
You seeing that as a teacher, which I know you've definitely seen, how have you approached those and how have you came around those situations where you're just like, I can't give up on students? Because I've seen you. I've like I said, there's specific things you remember in middle school, and one of those things that I did see a lot was that you were really fair with everybody, and you gave everybody the same tools and encouragement. So for teachers who don't do that, what made you push through and be like, you know what, this kid deserves that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dogs.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
no, 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 you're good. I think for me, I felt like one thing I'm really good at. I think this is a gift I have, and people can disagree with me. That's fine. This is what I think I'm good at. Is that I can look at someone and say, know exactly what their gift is,
Mm,
just and what potential they have. And so as a teacher, you want to bring that potential out. And I think like for a lot of students, I was able to find it and like utilize it
for sure.
and be able to like showcase it and like bring that in to whatever we were doing. Because like school, like I said, I did care about you all reading and writing and all that stuff, but I also cared about you being good people. And life, especially as people of color, in this country, they will definitely tell you you're not good at things
Mm,
and um tell you all the bad parts of yourself, but not help like not share your gift. Or another thing is that they'll you have a gift and they'll say that, well, that's not good enough.
yeah,
You should be this. Um, and so what I never lost hope in anyone because I always felt like everyone is smart, everyone is brilliant. We just have to like figure out ways to help people get there. And I think I wouldn't say that like my entire teaching experience was that, because like I definitely changed the way I taught over the 4 years I had you.
yeah,
We did more projects in your later seventh and eighth grade. Like we did like more presentations and um art activities. We also did the mock trial. Uh,
yeah. And I
we,
remember the
we-
college course or the
yeah,
college research stuff. Yeah, it
yeah,
was
like we
yeah,
just did a bunch of different things that I felt like we can bring out different skills in everybody. You
for
know what I'm
sure.
saying? So like I thought that was the reason why I never really gave up. I never gave up on anyone, and that's what I hope people got from me is that it
Yeah.
felt like everyone was talented and smart enough to do the thing, and that's what I wanted to bring to all of you. So that's a really good question. Thank you.
No, and I honestly did make me curious because again, a lot of you notice the difference. You know
Yep.
what I mean? You notice the difference when it comes to there's a huge difference when it comes to people that are sort of just doing their job just to do it and people who are doing it to actually make an impact and make a difference. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
telling you, you can
yeah.
read the difference day and night, and I would say at least I'm thankful that you and again all the other teachers that were at BP were just very on the same level of that, like in the same level of what, we're here to help you guys.
Right.
We're not here just to let you reciprocate books. We're here to actually have you give you those critical thinking skills.
Yep.
And it never again it never felt like we were kids. Like it sounds weird to say, or maybe it sounds bad, but it at least in my eyes, it wasn't bad at all. It really felt like we were all on the same level, and again, it just made me curious how you kept keeping up with people like that because it
I
was a
mean,
struggle,
the other thing is, I'm not gonna lie to you, like obviously as a human being, I get frustrated.
of
Like, I've
course.
had frustrations and I never gave up on anyone, but like of course I've had frustrations. I had to be tougher on kids. Um, but I always thought I was really like good at being tough, but also like letting everyone know that I love them and care about them and want them to do really well. And so I hope that's like at least that's my perception of it again. Like everything is always the perspectives and perceptions,
Mm,
like those things. But that's how I always approached it. Was like,
yeah,
I'll be tough, but also like I want you to do well. I love you and I care about you. So
yeah,
what is your second question?
yeah. So it's kind of adding on to that
Yeah.
almost. It was just more. So now that I understand that, because again, it was very, very, very special to feel like, you know what, even after schools, I don't know if you remember that after schools,
Oh
people
my
who wouldn't go
gosh.
home, they would come in and they would hang
I have
out.
a folder and
Yeah,
I have like a ticket where
yeah,
it's like it has the name and it's like you have a pass to come after school. I was
yeah,
looking at that the other day.
yep,
But yeah, I did after school almost every day.
yeah. It was a lot, and like again now looking at it, it's like I would feel exhausted being there all morning and then still having to be there at
I
the end
mean,
of
I
school.
definitely felt it.
You
I
know what I mean?
definitely
Yeah,
felt it. I did. I
yeah.
definitely felt it. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, that honestly just exposed a whole new memory of BP because yeah, I remember a
Yeah.
lot of those after school nights.
Yeah, and I will just say too, like I think what's really funny that you bring that up is because like now when a job is done, I leave.
Mhm.
So when I was at BP or when I was with y'all, I always um I didn't mind staying till 5 or 4:30, whatever
Yeah.
it was. Now after y'all left, well, after y'all left and after the class after you left,
Yeah.
I told myself I'm leaving at 3. And I did that.
Yeah, which makes
And
sense. I mean, it was a
it
long
was a
day.
different world. Like I would
Hmm.
be home and I'm like, oh, like I can do stuff. Like
Yeah.
I can go walk, I can play tennis, I can do art. Like it was a different world. And now, in my current life, if the job ends at 2, I leave at 2.
Hmm.
I learned, I obviously do not regret how holding the after schools and giving y'all space to do homework and all that stuff. Um, because it helped all of you and I have a great bond with all of you because of it. But I also needed to make time for myself.
Of course.
That's the learning.
But I hope you know it was appreciated because even
I know,
for
I know.
people who didn't just want to hang out, it was just a good time to like kill time. Parents who are working still, they
Oh
need to
yeah,
pick up
people
the kids
hung out.
later.
I remember.
We
Yeah,
hung out. It
people
was
hung out.
really just a hangout session, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
was
It
really
was
cool.
great.
So yeah,
Yeah,
it was
like
fun.
people got
It
to
was fun.
socialize. It was fine.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's thanks for bringing that up.
for sure.
All right, so the last part of the session is just talking about your future.
For sure.
So the first part is what are some hopes and dreams do you have for yourself?
It's you asked me that 5 years ago, and I would have said having my college degree, having a engineering degree, and being in an engineering field already.
Yep.
Right? You asked me that in middle school. It's probably way even more elaborate and more detailed. Right?
Yep.
You're asking me that now, and it's very much just trying to find myself. Honestly,
Mm,
it's very much just
my
trying to
heart.
find.
That's so, yeah, I understand.
It's and it's not in a bad way at all. It's just more like you get given a certain role at such an at such an early age of like do this, do this, do that, check this, check that, and you'll be set, right? And it's like you grow up, but it's like it's not that easy. You know what I mean? It's easier said than
Mhm.
done, and it's like now it's kind of like okay, now that I realize it's not that easy, what can I do to still set myself up and still find out what I'm into and find out what I'm good at, and
Mm,
not feel all this pressure of like I have to follow these specific rules so or follow these specific steps so that I can get at least to a place where people deem worthy or people deem that it's a good spot. You know what I mean? Where society says, "Oh, you're good because you graduated college and you're doing this job." You know what I mean? There's that
yeah,
mindset of people saying and just having their opinions, right?
right.
Um, so right now, I really just want to focus on myself, honestly, and just focus on what makes me truly happy and what I can do for myself and for others to just make sure I'm fulfilling my own needs financially, educational wise, and community wise. I don't want to ever feel like I'm just not giving back to the people when you giving us so much too. Like I said, all those after school times and like all the advice and stuff like that, you didn't have to do any of that. But I honestly feel like you did go above and beyond as a teacher, and it may sound yeah, you definitely went above and beyond as a teacher to make us all feel included.
Yeah,
And I definitely want to make other people feel like that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Whether it's either family, friends, or
right,
even other whoever.
right,
It's just a good feeling to know that you're worth it. You are strong enough. You are smart enough,
right,
and you can do it. You know what I mean? Never talk yourself down.
right. And just so you, and like, you talk a little bit about like what society deems as successful, you define that.
Of course.
You define the success. Like you don't
Yeah.
need to let degrees, paper, and all that stuff
Yeah.
define success. I'm still navigating through that.
I'm still navigating through that too.
Yeah.
It's very hard. Again, even being a Hispanic or being a part of a part of an immigrant family,
Yep.
it's such a hard idea to wrap around just because people deem certain jobs as either not worthy enough or certain lifestyles as you need to follow that so that you can end up like them. But it's
Yeah.
like I don't want to end up like them. I
Right.
want to end up
You,
happy. I want to end up, you know what I mean,
yeah.
doing my own things.
Yes. I'm just gonna say, like, you as 21, 22, having that hinds like already having that reflection, I think is really good. Because it took me a lot. Like Yeah, it took me in my 30s to get to that, you
I
know.
appreciate it.
So I think that's really good. What about any hopes and dreams you have for your community?
Yeah, so like I said, I feel grateful again getting to know you and getting to know the other teachers at BP because I feel like I feel like you all, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but you guys all kind of got on the same boat of like, let's treat these kids right and let's treat them literally as I can't get around the fact that even in high school, certain times you don't feel like an adult. You don't feel like you're getting treated like an adult. You feel like
Mhm.
they're just throwing things at you. And I feel like you all collectively
Right.
made us feel
Yeah.
worthy and made us feel like we could do whatever. So I want to give that to some people. I want to give that to um people who feel like, you know what, I'm just put in such a bad spot. You're not put maybe the situation looks bad right now, but you're never in a bad place where you can't pick yourself out from it, you know. And it's hard for people to feel that, and I'm like I said, I'm super grateful that you did that for us, and I would love to do that for either kids at my local church or just talking to whoever that it may help, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I hope this episode helps people realize that you know what, it's okay not to have everything sorted out. It's okay to be lost, you know what I mean, because it's just so there's so many people out there that'll help you and so many guides and information that just will
Yeah.
set you up in a way that even if you don't think that's the right path for you right now, just try it. You know what I mean? And just
That's
have
right.
something in your belt. So
Yeah.
I want to help people understand that too because it's super comforting
Yeah.
knowing the fact that there are just other routes. You know what I mean? So I definitely want to let people know that. I want to help at least in my community. I want to let and there's even older people, right, who are just still lost and they're like, oh, well, I don't know if I want to do this or that. And it's
Yeah.
like, I have those types of coworkers too, where it's like, you can have those conversations and you're very much open about it. And it's just helpful. It's just helpful knowing other people can understand you on that.
Right. Um, that's really good. That's really good.
Appreciate it.
And now the last one before the last one.
For sure.
Is what are your hopes and dreams for the world?
This is a hard one because there's so many. I mean, if I could just say make the world perfect, right? But
Mm,
that's just so hard to say because everybody's idea of perfect is different, you know.
right.
But as far as with everything that's happening in the world, I just honestly hope that we can come about as a society and as a people to be more accepting and more loving of each other's differences and opinions because it's just so it feels so divided sometimes where it's just that you're trying to just say an opinion and it's almost like you feel like you're attacking somebody or you feel like you've been attacked by somebody else's opinions or thoughts or ideas, and it shouldn't feel like that. It shouldn't feel like you shouldn't feel scared to give out your opinion or feel a certain way or act a certain way.
Right.
um and I just hope we could be a little bit more inclusive in that sense, you know what I mean, just in every way, even in the standard of like grow up, go to college, be a doctor, get this, do that. I would hope that as a people and as a society, we can come together and be like, you know what? Everybody's different. Everybody's path is different, and it's okay. It's completely okay. And it sounds cliche, and it sounds almost like, oh, well, there's already people doing that. But it's like, yeah, no. You know what I mean? There's people who say that, but it's like nobody really sits down and says that to you. You know what I mean? Your parents don't really ever sit you down and say that. Teachers don't ever really sit you down, and it kind of puts that image on you. So I just hope that as a people we could just move together and be more accepting of everything. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Everything, school, everything.
Yeah. Love that. All right. To wrap up, the last question is you gave me a picture of your younger self. And so if you could look at the picture of your younger self and give your younger Carlos, younger Montalvo advice, what advice would you give him? And then what would you want to say to him?
Mm, that it's I've been thinking about that for a while actually. It's one of those things where you think about if you had that opportunity. And if I had that opportunity, I think I would start off, I would say Hey, Carlos, I hope you know that everything is okay. Everything will be okay. And no matter what people say to you now, no matter what responsibilities you feel like you may have right now, don't let that determine your future and determine the person you have to be today, because life changes, everything changes, your interests change, your every little thing that you feel has
Mm.
a certain way of working itself out, and you should never feel like there's only one path for you. So I hope you really understand when you grow up that you don't feel less than or you don't feel sufficient just because of what other people have told you,
Mm.
and you can grow up and understand that you're enough and that you and the work that you have put into yourself and your family and your friends is enough, whether you admit it or not, whether you want to see it or not. I hope you understand that life is only what you make of it. And if you see it as bad now, or if you see it a certain way, you should definitely take a second to understand and appreciate all the little things you have, because you're not so different, and you're blessed with everything that you've been given. I hope you know that. I really do hope you know that. Carlos to Carlos, I hope you understand. You've had such an amazing experience in life. You've had such amazing parents, teachers, friends, and you should never take anything for granted. And you should never forget where you come from. And you should always take the time to explore your options and explore your paths, because every path is different. And again, what you like today might not be what you like tomorrow, and it's okay. It's 100% fine.
Oh,
Live your life, enjoy everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and just go from there.
yeah. That
I
is,
think, yeah,
whew, that is really good advice.
I
You,
appreciate it.
you should tell yourself
Thank you.
that every day.
Again, it's a hard. It's one of those things where you just start realizing it now. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
No, yeah. One of the biggest advice that I ever gotten, and I can share this with you and everybody who's listening, is sometimes you do have to talk to your younger self.
Yeah,
A lot of your older self is healing
yeah,
younger you. And so sometimes you got to talk to yourself that way. Some-
and yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, you see me now, beard and everything. I look so
yeah.
whatever, but I still sometimes feel like I'm in high school, like I'm in middle school,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
it's
no,
a thing
I
where
feel
you have to
that.
grow.
Um, the last thing I want to say is I don't know if you remember this. One of the things I have from you, in middle school, I have it in a little book, is you gave me a card in fifth grade.
Mm,
Um, and it's one of my, I keep it in a thing because I love looking at it. I have a bunch of things from a lot of people where I just
of
keep
course.
it here. And yours was, thank you for being the best first male teacher I ever had.
Mm,
That was the card that you gave me.
yeah,
I kept it in my binder, and it's something that I really really hold close. That and you, I have another letter from you too from when you graduated as well in there. But one thing I'll say is that you're very wise.
thank
Like
you so much.
you
I
have a
appreciate it.
lot of knowledge, and you need to give yourself credit for that. Like it's just really beautiful. I'm so glad I had you on here because it's
Thank you,
really important, like to share your perspective. And so, like, thank you for, being a guest in this podcast. I love you. I'm so proud of you, of everything that you've done. And maybe you should come back in another season so that we can talk a little bit more because you
yes.
talked a lot about some really good things. And so, thank you so much again, Carlos, for joining.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's honestly, like I said, it was a good discussion and a good opener, and it's just good to just verbalize a lot of things sometimes, because I think you people get so wrapped up, and I'll leave it at that. People get so wrapped up in their own heads that it's just like it's important to verbalize, certain things that you're seeing, feeling, and helps you grow. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you like giving me that platform to say all that and just help myself realize a lot
Yeah.
of things.